Another benefit of deep bedding, even though the goats don't eat them, is mushrooms all over the place. I don't particularly know what kind of mushroom that is, but we will be inoculating the deep bedding over the year. It is 30 degrees outside, and this material is warm enough that a mushroom is growing in it. When I stick my hand down in there, it feels pretty warm. It's not hot. It's just warmer than the outside air. So, and you might be asking, well, hey, Justin, if you're doing deep bedding, when you emptied out that shelter, which by the way is quite broken up, you can see how broken up that shelter is. Why is it you haul off the material that was in the shelter? It's full of piss, it's full of poop and everything, and it was not in good condition. You can see where the shelter sat on the ground and the ground rotted up even more under it. Well, it's because, well, I did dump some of it out here, but most of it just went into here because that can be bedding for ducks. So I don't want soiled, wet hay. I'm just doing a hand gesture. It's just a hand gesture there, little buckling. Okay, so the objective of this is that the materials get mashed down over time and seeds sprout in it, and mushrooms grow in it, and then more material goes on top of that, and then eventually, and by the way, there was 6 to 8 inches of wood chips on the ground first. It's because this area used to look like that. Forest mulcher cut everything down. We got 6 to 8 inches of wood chips underneath. We've got the mulch going on top, the straw and everything going on top of that. We do haul off the bedding to use as bedding for ducks or to use as compost, because we do have vegetable scraps and other things that can be composted. Now, those vegetable scraps will soon go someplace where the ducks can get to them and the chickens can get to them first. But we remove it because it's saturated with pee and poo. What are you doing, dude? These are my pants. All right, he wants me to pay attention to him before I leave here. Now, the wood, you notice, is stacked up nice and neat and everything. Seeds fall through there, and sometimes they sprout. You see a lot of stuff sprouting. Remember, it is 32 degrees outside. It is cold. I can't necessarily see my breath, but my nose is running. It's pretty cold. You'll notice that down here, we don't really have a lot of hay and straw coming down here because most of the time I throw it over the fence up top. But eventually we will get... I like to throw new hay in places where there hasn't been hay before. Because again, we're seeding, we're feeding, we're ultimately providing a carbonaceous diaper, as Joel Salatin says. What are you doing? A carbonaceous diaper to absorb any nutrients. And when this is done, we'll grow oats and we'll grow, because this area, by the way, down here had goats on it a while back. We'll grow oats and we'll grow straw and hay combinations. We'll grow biomass. We'll grow whatever's there. But here's the greatest value. Let me find a sharp stick. I'm not going to poke myself in the eye, but I'll use a sharp stick. By the way, we're in a drought. We need to get them some more water. But we're going to go up here, and I'm just going to take this stick, and I'm going to show you what's underneath here. Is just layers and layers of material. Now, these material is grass and manure, and see there's a seed in there. You can see that seed. And so if they've wasted any feed, it's in here. And you can see some of those seeds are sprouting. And I could keep digging down. It's a little bit hard right now, but I could keep digging down, and those seeds and the hay and dude, come on, man. I'm trying to do a YouTube video. You want your own channel? You want your own channel before you go to freezer camp? Anyway, so what's going on here is all that material is like, it's very, not squishy, but it's kind of, it feels like soil under here. All that material is going down there, the urine, the manures, the additional straw, the additional hay. If I have wood chips, I would dump them in here. All of my carbon material comes in here for the comfort of the goats because I want their hooves to stay dry even in a wet season. I want the water to be absorbed in the ground. And then when they come out, there's going to be seed. There's going to be leftover materials in there that will sprout. and get this whole area in grass. So we're making a tremendous amount of soil. Now, could I run chickens through here to turn the material over? Yes, if I was going to turn the material over and haul it out someplace else, use it as compost, use it for the nursery beds, use it for a garden, sure, I could do that. Or I can grow in place and come back later when there's grass on the ground, cut around the outside edge, scythe around the outside edge, keep the fence clean, then just put up some hot wire, or put the goats in here and let them eat it down, and then put up some hot wire, and then we're back in action again. This one I'm training on 4 wires. 4 wires, the chickens don't come in here. 3 wires, the chickens will come in. Hopefully I can get the goats trained on 3 wires so that when they're out there, the chickens and goats can come through. Because the chickens could be eating, because I was at this farm local here. I said, what do you feed your chickens? Because I was buying feed from them. And big old bag of feed, whole seed feed, and great stuff. 16% protein. And I said, hey man, what are you feeding your chickens? I know you got ducks, you got chickens. What do you feed them? And he's like, we don't feed them. I was like, what do you mean? And then he pointed at the bags of feed and everything everywhere. And basically at the feed, it's a feed mill in a farm, and the straw everywhere, and there's waste materials. The chickens are cleaning up the waste. So technically, if the chickens can get in and out of here, if the ducks can get in and out of here, they could clean up all those seeds, and then I can exclude them when it comes time to start planting and growing things out. And then, of course, I can let things go to seed. So in here, you've got blackberries and daikon radish, and that's way too big for me to eat. It's probably all woody and stuff, too. I've got clover. Let me make sure this fence is not on. All right, I got clover. I've got just all kinds of stuff growing on in here. And this again is our control plot to show you what things would look like if we just left it on its own. Now there has been a goat in here from time to time, but this is what it would look like if we just threw seed in and let it grow. Some little trees. But again, if we put the goat pressure on it, it's going to look like just ground. So we got to be able to take the goats off. And part of that is getting the most life out of this as possible. So if they've manured in their shelter and they've peed in their shelter, I could take that material out, flip it a time or two, or just spread it in the duck coop that's over there, and the ducks will pick through it. Sometimes, if I want to get this bedding down, like if it's a wet season, I can actually mound the bedding or mound the deep mulch and let the chickens spread it out. And so that's hay, by the way. I mounded up the hay earlier. This is wasted hay. I can tell there's a color difference between the two. And this is grass coming up. So we've got grass coming up. We've got mushrooms coming up. I'll inoculate for certain types of mushrooms so that we can actually get the mycelium growing underneath here that would make mushrooms that I can eat. So during the rest period, there might be shiitake. There might be King Sephora oyster mushroom. Shiitake is not as likely because there's not really like logs underground here. But I can inoculate the soil. I could add charcoal to the soil and let them manure, or I could put the charcoal in the shelter and let them manure that. So many options. But remember, we're cycling materials through the corrals, and then the corrals will get rest while the goats are out in the pastures once we get the fences up. And then through that, we're building up biomass that later will grow even more biomass. And then that biomass can feed the goats. That biomass can make additional bedding. That biomass can feed the humans. This would be a nice little garden area. I just gets plant starts and exclude chickens because you don't want chickens in here, but I get plant starts. I put a nice little row all the way down the back there and give myself a nice 8-foot by 24-foot garden bed here. And then when we're done with it, just put the goats back in. Actually, that would be a really good demonstration when this one's ready to idle, is to put a garden bed in here. And probably do that this spring. Anyway, Justin hit Prosperity Homestead, www.prosperityhomestead.org. If you've seen something useful in this video or any of the videos on our channel or at the website, please implement something. start doing this stuff, it's way more enjoyable to do this than it is to watch it. And of course, there's meat and there's vegetables and there's daikon radishes everywhere. I had some with lunch. This is growing well. So we can get sorghum growing. And we're going to have little plots of it everywhere. I can just imagine right here. So a 8-foot by 24-foot bed over there. I don't have to till it or anything. The goats have done all the work. And then over here, a little plot, maybe do some pumpkins and some sunflowers. And then share some with the goats and the other animals here as we build out our own little sustainable homestead or prosperous homestead. How's your testes doing? Anyway, I'm constantly checking the goats. I want to make sure they're in good health. What are you doing? I almost slap you on the bottom. Anyway, I'll play with these guys before I go and do the next thing. www.prosperityhomestead.org. And we're going to grow some mushrooms too.